So ready.
Yeah, man.
Can I show, this is, but you did not, where'd you go to college?
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State.
Yes, sir.
Oklahoma State.
Is the love I gave her in the past.
Just 1 minute ago, news broke that has left the country music world in shock. The name on everyone's lips is Garth Brooks, a man who has sold more albums than almost any artist alive, who has filled stadiums with millions of fans, and who has stood at the very top of the entertainment world. But now, he's suddenly at the center of headlines that are anything but good. What happened? How did a legend so beloved, so respected, find himself here, embroiled in a story that threatens to overshadow everything he built? The cameras may show him smiling, but behind the stage lights, something darker has been unfolding. Tonight, we unravel the journey of a boy from Tulsa who rose to global fame, the man behind the cowboy hat whose music touched generations, and the stunning developments that now dominate the headlines.
Before the headlines, before the shock, before the controversies that now circle his name, there was simply Troy Garth Brooks, a young man from Tulsa, Oklahoma, whose story could have ended in obscurity had fate not intervened. Born in 1962, he grew up in a house where music wasn't just background noise, it was lifeblood. His mother, Colleen, was a country singer herself, signed to Capitol Records. And his father, Troy, instilled in him a tireless work ethic that would one day become the backbone of his career. But unlike so many young dreamers, Garth didn't immediately see a future in music. He was athletic, focused on track and field, splitting his energy between sports and singing. Yet something deep inside him kept pulling toward the stage. By the time he was performing in small bars and honky-tonks, the unmistakable spark was already there. Nashville in the 1980s was overflowing with hopefuls, and for everyone who made it, thousands never saw their names in lights. But when Garth arrived, he brought something different. He didn't just sing, he performed. He leapt across stages, shattered the stiff image of the traditional country crooner, and infused his shows with the raw energy of a rock concert.
When his debut album dropped in 1989, simply titled Garth Brooks, the world began to take notice. The single, Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old, captured the hearts of country fans. But it was If Tomorrow Never Comes and The Dance that cemented him as the voice of an entire generation. Those early songs carried both tenderness and haunting truth, lyrics about life, love, and regret that resonated across America. By the early 1990s, Garth wasn't just a country star, he was a phenomenon. Stadiums that once seemed impossible for country acts to fill were suddenly bursting with fans eager to see him. His live performances broke records, his albums shattered sales milestones, and critics declared that Garth Brooks had done what no one thought possible. He had bridged the gap between Nashville twang and mainstream superstardom. Unlike many artists, Garth never confined himself to tradition. He brought in rock influences, drew inspiration from George Strait and James Taylor, and gave audiences a show that felt larger than life. Pyrotechnics, dramatic lighting, and wild stage stunts, once reserved for arena rock acts, suddenly became staples of country concerts. Every artist that followed him would feel the ripple effect. By 1991, his album Rope in the Wind debuted at #1 on both the Billboard Country Chart and the all-genre Billboard 200, a first in music history. The industry had never seen anything like it. Garth Brooks was no longer just a singer. He was an empire. The boy from Oklahoma had taken the dream of country music and catapulted it into global dominance. Fans adored him, critics respected him, and fellow musicians marveled at his relentless drive. But as history has shown, with great heights come dangerous expectations, and what goes up must in time face gravity. For Garth Brooks, the legend was only beginning, but even then, The seeds of future strain were already being planted. Behind the flashing lights, the record-breaking tours, and the towering success of the charts, there was another Garth Brooks, a man far removed from the roar of the crowd. While fans saw the cowboy hat and the commanding stage presence, those closest to him knew someone whose life was shaped not only by music, but by family, faith, and a relentless desire to stay grounded in a world that tried to pull him apart. His first marriage to Sandy Mall began long before the fame, when he was just another dreamer chasing a future. Together, they built a family, raising 3 daughters, even as Garth's career exploded around them. But fame and family often clash, and for Garth, the struggle to balance both became one of the greatest challenges of his life. In 2001, he made a decision that stunned the entire music industry. He walked away from it all. Imagine a superstar at the height of global fame, with millions of fans begging for more, yet he chose home over Hollywood. He wanted to coach his daughter's teams, attend school plays, and be a father before being an icon. That choice revealed more about the man than any hit song ever could. It showed a man unwilling to sacrifice what truly mattered, even if it meant giving up the crown he had worked his whole life to earn. Years later, when he returned to music, his personal life had changed again. His marriage to Sandy ended, but it opened a new chapter with fellow country legend Trisha Yearwood, a partnership both on and off the stage. With Trisha, fans saw a softer, more playful Garth, someone who shared the spotlight and found joy in collaboration. Their duets weren't just songs, they were glimpses into a love built on mutual respect, humor, and unshakable support. Yet fame never sleeps. Even as he tried to stay grounded, the weight of being one of the most successful entertainers in history began to show. The pressure to stay perfect, the scrutiny of every word, the criticism every time he took a stand, all of it took a toll. Behind the smile was a man who cared deeply, sometimes too deeply, about what people thought. He could sell out a stadium, yet go home wondering if he'd truly given enough. And that humanity, the same thing that made him beloved, also made him vulnerable. For every icon who rises to the top, the shadow of controversy is never far behind, and Garth Brooks was no exception. Though his career was filled with unprecedented success, it was also marked by moments that divided fans and critics alike. To some, Garth was a visionary, the man who transformed country music into a global powerhouse. To others, he was a disruptor, a performer who broke too far from tradition, commercializing the genre until it no longer sounded like the music they once loved. His boldness often clashed with Nashville's expectations. When he introduced rock energy into country, purists accused him of watering down the sound. Yet, while critics complained, millions of fans filled stadiums, proving he had tapped into something bigger than anyone could explain. Then came the late 1990s, and Chris Gaines. Garth's ambitious alter ego was meant to be an artistic experiment, a fictional rock star who let him explore a different side of creativity. But to the public, it was confusing at best, laughable at worst. The media pounced, fans felt betrayed, critics mocked him mercilessly. It was one of the few times the unstoppable cowboy miscalculated, and it left a scar that lingered for years. Beyond creative risks, his outspoken personality placed him in the middle of firestorms. He spoke about unity, equality, and inclusion, rare themes in country music's conservative world. Some praised his courage, others turned away, accusing him of losing touch with his base. Every decision, from performing at political events to declining them, became national news. As time went on, the controversies piled higher. When he stepped away from music, some said he abandoned his fans. When he returned, others questioned his relevance. His ticket prices drew backlash. His refusal to stream on major platforms brought more criticism. Every move he made seemed to divide the public. Behind the scenes, the toll was enormous. Insiders described a man who read every headline, who carried both the love and the hate of millions on his shoulders. He smiled for the cameras, but in private, the pressure was breaking him down. He was exhausted, scrutinized, and haunted by the impossible weight of his own legend. And now, with new headlines flashing across the world, fans are asking the same haunting question: has Garth Brooks finally reached the breaking point?
When the news broke, the ripple effect was immediate, spreading faster than wildfire through social media, television, and radio. For decades, Garth Brooks had been the symbol of country music's unstoppable rise. But now, the narrative shifted from celebration to speculation, from admiration to doubt. The fallout was unlike anything his team had ever faced. Some fans rushed to defend him, declaring that no headline could erase the years of memories and music he had given them. Others, disillusioned, angry, or heartbroken, questioned whether the image of Garth Brooks had been real all along. In Nashville, whispers grew louder. Strained partnerships, cautious promoters, and executives quietly debating if his star power was fading. For a man who built his empire on both talent and trust, that doubt was devastating. The media followed him relentlessly. Cameras outside his home, journalists dissecting every lyric, and talk shows spinning theories about his fall. The once untouchable cowboy was now vulnerable, his crown slipping in real time. But amid the noise, his greatest strength reappeared: family. Trisha Yearwood stood by his side, urging fans to remember the man behind the headlines. His daughters, the same girls he once left fame for, reminded him that no stage, no award could ever define his worth. And across the world, millions still played the dance, still sang Friends in low places, still believed in the man who gave their lives a soundtrack. Now, as the dust begins to settle, one truth remains: Garth Brooks's legacy has never been about perfection. It's been about humanity. The same vulnerability that once broke him is now what makes his story timeless. Like Johnny Cash, who rose from darkness, like Elvis Presley, whose pain became part of his legend, Garth Brooks stands at his own crossroads, between glory and doubt, between the man and the myth. If he faces this storm with honesty, if he steps back on stage and gives the world his truth once more, then this too will become part of the legend. Because in the end, Garth Brooks was never just a performer. He was, and still is, a storyteller. And his greatest story is still being written.